right, welcome back to another episode of Pop Culture POV, Pop Culture Point of View. My name is RandomlyRJ Jr. Make sure you go to the website, RandomlyRJr.com. Also, there is a Patreon because all this content, it doesn't come for free. No, I'm kidding. But if you do want to support further, it's patreon.com/RandomlyRJ Jr. Of course, there is youtube.com/Ronnie Media Page and the one you are checking out now. And I love the content. I love the work. You know, in the digital space, sometimes the things that get rewarded are the shit show. And I'm kind of like, no, there's times where we could stop down, give a pop culture hot take, and it be fun, you know. And that's what we're going to do on this particular episode. This is about showing love to Tami Roman and sort of speaking to her contributions for reality TV and everything else. So whether you met her as Tami Roman or Tammy Anderson or Tammy Akbar, it's just really about saying, wait a minute. Tami did all the heavy lifting on Real World Los Angeles, the second season in 93, which was out of the Venice Beach House. And yet somehow we're not giving her accolades for that. And I realize within casting, you know, some of the projects I've been in or around, casting, of course, is that, you know, not everyone, you don't put Tami times 10 in the house together. You know, it's not always the same, which is what makes a good show. As much as the Real World 93, the second season, which was Los Angeles, Venice Beach, as much as you need John, you need Tami. But like, I just think that sometimes, even when she was doing Basketball Wives, no one really was equating that, like, if she didn't help invent the wheel, you know, there might not be this brand of reality TV. And the fact that, like, she has to keep fighting for it is just, I was going to say was silly to me. And I'm going to say was because I feel like for the first time now, with the work that she's doing on the Miss Pat show as an actress and the Real World Homecoming, and for her to sort of express herself and get to kind of speak on some of the issues she was going through while filming, now it seems like we're finally saying, oh my gosh, Tami really did a lot and gave great television programming. She was honest, she was authentic. She may have been extra to a degree, but like, what are we trying to cast? Like, this is what we're casting, compelling people. That's what I try to do with the work that I do on RandomlyRJr.com. Be compelling. It seems simple. So I guess where I will speak on and how I will navigate this conversation is that it had first occurred to me several years ago, actually, when I felt that Tami did not get her flowers. So the first time I kind of equated this in my head was when I was like, wow, this is like her third or fourth, maybe fifth episode, starring role on Basketball Wives. Like, she had done it for a couple years. This wasn't the beginning. This wasn't, you know, Basketball Wives, the Miami season 2, you know, where she's got the hand in the face with Royce, which is a classic reality TV scene. This was way beyond that, where she, you know, she came into the show the second season, really made the show, if you ask me. Evelyn was great, sure, but she really made that show. Like, Shani should be, you know, sending her checks still. You know, Tami was what made it work. And anyways, where I first thought of this in my head was several years ago, because I said, she's about on her fifth season as a starring role on Basketball Wives, and we're treating her like she's lucky to be there. And I was just like, and I try not to curse all the time on these episodes, but I was like, what in the fuckity fuck? Like, why is she looked at as like, oh, you're just lucky to get that VH1 check? Lucky to get that check? Tami Roman is what people are watching. And with that being said, it's not to say that I have always said that every Tami Roman, you know, anything she's ever done on reality TV, I've stood behind. Most of it I have. She's very funny to me. And a lot of people who watch reality TV will always say this: as long as the person can make you laugh and convey some type of emotion, you're with it. And she always has done that. The only time that I feel like I thought it was a little much was, and you are going to remember this if you're a Basketball Wives fan, The only time that I was like, oh, Tami girl, Tami, this is too much, was when she was calculating, how the gal that was in the van with her was supposed to cough. And the girl was, I can't remember her name. She was only on one season, and the girl may have been fake. We don't know. She might have been one of these people that were putting on for the camera really sweet, but not really sweet in real life. And so Tami might have just been sort of, addressing that. But the girl had to cough in the van. They were on some type of travel at the time. I can't remember where they were. And I just remember being like, okay, now this, Tami, is a little too much, because the girl's trying to cough and you're like calculating how she should cough, how she should turn her head, this, that, and the other. And all I could think in my head was like, oh my gosh, like if I was doing a show and I actually had to cough, and the person, who had like a starring role on the show was, basically checking me, I feel like even if inside I didn't have to cough, I feel like I would get tense and I would like want to sneeze or cough or something on accident. So that was the only time and that I was like, oh my gosh, Tami. But see, that was the same season that I had said, even back then, I says, Tami should be rewarded in the way that some of the other reality people have been rewarded. Why if like a Bethany Frankel can get even if Bethany didn't enjoy it, if she can get an opportunity to do, I mean, that's Bravo and Housewives a little bit different, but why? And I'm not saying Tami wants to do this. I have no idea. But why if Bravo cast members can get like options to do a talk show, Tami, who's so assertive, who again invented the wheel, like she's the one who put this whole genre on the map, and why can't she get, I don't know if it was contractually she couldn't, but like why couldn't VH1 or another network or another platform work with her and give her some kind of a series? There's so many shows out there. So anyways, that is where I'm just kind of mirroring my opinion as to where and why I thought, wait a minute, Tami is not getting her flowers. Another reason I had begun to think this, outside of the fact that I really liked her on Basketball Wives, she really made the show. I mean, we all know that. And the show suffered when she left. I mean, of course, it's an ensemble. But I mean, without Tami, I'm not tuning in, Another reason that I had felt that it was time for her to get her flowers. And again, luckily now in the current stage where we're having Real World Homecoming, she's kind of being looked at as like, oh shit, she did all the heavy lifting. And again, I think she stated it too. If she doesn't come back on that season, those checks that every other cast member is getting may not get that check. She's good. She's on the Miss Pat show, season 2. She's, Tami will always thrive. That's just what we know. So anyways, so what I'm saying is now let's break this down. I get so excited talking about Tami. Is she a Virgo? Maybe she's a Virgo because I'm a Virgo and, I really like her, but no, I don't think she's a Virgo. I think she's a Gemini. Oh my gosh, I should have done the research, but who cares? My point is, up until recently, till she was on Real World Homecoming, I think now, only till now, people are starting to be like, oh, let's give her flowers. Let's realize that if she didn't have the contributions as a compelling character, we wouldn't even be here. The genre, as I stated, not forget the Los Angeles cast, the genre. What she's great at is dictating exactly what she feels and extracting information out of the next person, asking the pivotal questions. This is not something that everyone could do. And I think when I had originally thought in my head, when Real World Homecoming, the first one, was airing, which I do favor a little as an ensemble, and it's New York City. We all know that I love New York City more than anything. Center of the universe, boom and boom. It's fantastic. It's magic. New York is I grew up in Southern California, but my time in New York City is what makes me the best Ronnie. You know what I mean? I guess that could be argued. I'm still probably not my best, but my point is, Real World Homecoming New York was fantastic. Real World Homecoming Los Angeles, I feel like Tami finally got her credit. But even leading up to it is when I really was like, we got to give her flowers. Like, I think I was on Instagram with a friend and we were talking about like, oh my gosh, are you excited about Real World Homecoming? Tami's going to be on. Oh my gosh. Like, this is finally she gets her praise. And I think that's what got me, because I remember chatting with somebody about being so excited about Real World Homecoming Los Angeles. And this was somebody who also liked Real World Homecoming New York. But their first thought was, oh yeah, I rewatched it on Paramount Plus, but Tami was the most. And all I could say was, the most? Damn it. Damn right she was the most. In the best possible way. Because had she not done that heavy lifting, no one would be talking about that cast. And I don't mean it in the way that some of the reality TV people do now. These days, the reality TV people, they really put on a show. It's so far off their actual personality. They just know they'll be edited in a way. And so that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about her being an authentic, compelling person. And somebody could say, oh, you're kissing her ass. Why would I need to do that? Why would I need to kiss her ass? You know what I mean? Let's not backtrack, or let's actually backtrack and remind you, my career has had some really great accomplishments as well. And I'm just using this time to say, this was the episode. It was chill. It was a little, look at, I'm getting all excited. It was a little, put some respect on her name. That's all it was. It was the identifying that, like, oh shit, you're right. Tami really was the reason that, like, the show was compelling. Like, to think that all that aired during the 93 season, so much of it was her, and so much of it was things that had never really been seen. You think about the her wiring her mouth, and even like now on the Real World Homecoming, to see what the mental was behind that. It's fascinating. She's fascinating. I could not imagine where she was at when, and this is such a frustrating situation, as I was saying, why couldn't she take all that success at Basketball Wives and cross that over to a talk show? So she doesn't have to be, reality TV is fun, but it's probably, so much work, year after year, year after year, and especially her. People will sort of come for her because what's a great way to get your storyline out there, or to have like a moment, is just, utilize Tami being the most, the most interesting on the cast. So I'm kind of like, I'm excited for this sort of glow up moment. She seems to be happy in her relationship. Her daughters are, they're women, 26, 27 years old. Jazz and Lyric, like, she seems to have a little bit of a balance, which I like. And I've always kind of thought like she just hadn't really gotten all the credit. You think about virtually every Real Housewife on freaking Bravo, they get, tons of fanfare and adoration. And yet I'm like, okay, Basketball Wives clearly is a different show, but like there is a tiny part of me, not saying she would ever do it, but there's a tiny part of me that's like, I wish, like, I believe she lives in Houston, but I wish there was like a Bravo reality show, Real Housewives of Houston or whatever, and, where Tami could be ushered into all those experiences. Thinking about like a Nene Leakes, who's not that interesting, in my opinion. I'm a Team Kenya Moore kind of guy. Gone with the Wind fabulous. There we go. But my point is, like, to think about like someone like Nene Leakes, who did really well in the Bravo platform, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish like Tami would have a platform that allowed for all that. So the fact that she's done as much heavy lifting at VH1, and I don't know that VH1 was ever thankful. That's the real hard part. But to know that, like, now she's getting to at least come back, tell everyone about Real World Venice Beach, that house, and what she was feeling at the time, for people to understand that, like, listen, if she didn't come back, there would be no show. That's just, Dominic didn't come back. Aaron didn't come back. Dominic, I think, would have been interesting. Aaron, we knew, wouldn't come back. And the rest of them, I think Beth is still interesting, sure. I think Beth A has been more interesting than we would have thought, which is great. Glenn, is it Glenn? Glenn's okay. John is interesting, but it's kind of like a cap. Like, we're going to get John as much as we're getting John. Like, I'm not going to ever put on the program and be like, oh, this is something new and exciting. It's like, okay, all right, well, just another day in John Brennan's life. But that's not a knock. It's just really nice to see that everyone's kind of understanding how beneficial Tami is. And she did have to navigate quite a bit with David and David's story, and that was, of course, layered with some of the stuff that he had going on with the story and where it felt. And I'm just glad that she has been able to get through it. Well, I guess what I'm saying is because she's been able to get through VH1 reality, kind of saying, I'm done with reality altogether, and then really wanting to step in the acting world. But that is something that is courageous, because you never know that once you hang up those reality TV cameras, so to speak, and those are coming in constant, and you're working year after year, paycheck after paycheck. Sure, it kind of is a little hiccupy, chaotic experience, but the money's coming in plentiful. Who knew that navigating into TV and acting would work? That's not to say she didn't do a bunch of acting work post Real World and before Basketball Wives, but it's still, the industry itself isn't always saying, hey, woman of a certain age, over 35 years old, here's a bunch of opportunity. It's still not that. As a guy, as a man, I'm over 40. I'm starting to, it's a little nicer for, the treatment is a little more available for males to succeed, where that's not as strict as they are with the women, but I can still start to see it. Things that I easily would want to do at 25, every door opened up. At 40, they're like, oh, you're old, you're dusty. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So what I'm saying simply is that it's so cool to see her take that risk, get out of reality TV, move on to TV, and then see where it goes. And then the Miss Pat show hits, and then boom, and then it gets a season 2. And I do hope that, I not only hope, I know it's going to keep flourishing. So that's really cool. The thing is, none of that is a given. As great as she was as a cast member and making all this money for VH1, none of that was a given. And there had even been some talks of like, well, why did she go back to reality TV after she sort of said, I'm done with it completely? Well, I think that leaving Basketball Wives, VH1, she's never said it, or I'm not, if she has, I don't know, but feeling like you're doing a bunch for VH1 and VH1 isn't really doing much for you, it's nice to be able to say I'm done with reality TV. I think the difference by going back to the Real World is that was such a new experience, and it was a really great way to give her what she went through back all those years ago. She was compelling, but I don't know, Real World Homecoming is such a good show. I want to see all the different not all of them, but I want to see a lot of the cast members come back together. And it's nice to see people age and grow and come back and start to understand the other cast members, because that's not an easy thing. But anyways, respect to Tami Roman. I still think there's a great talk show in her, if she doesn't stick with, just the Miss Pat show and the acting experience, she's kind of one of these people who could do it all. And for too many years, people were not, they were not saying she's the GOAT. She is. We all know that. I track back to that Royce moment with Royce and her and their hand in the face. Like that is reality TV gold that almost supersedes anything Bravo has ever done, and it's like sometimes the adulation for Basketball Wives will be like Shawnee O'Neal or Evelyn Lozada, which that nothing's wrong with the two of them, but I'm like, it's Tami. Tami's the GOAT. That's the one who we gotta say, give her flowers, outside of don't be in a Sprinter van and cough around her, because she's going to give you the exact explanation on how to do it. But that is classic Tami. She's, I believe, 50 years old. And, another thing to just talk about, to have a career that started in your 20s and still be around now. Oh my gosh, stand up, you clap for her. And, if I was Bravo reality, I would throw like a mindless comedic show at her. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if they're married, but the younger husband, the two daughters, throw something funny. Like my this notion of reality TV has to be so polarizingly yelling at everybody. Like, it's just, I don't believe it. I believe you could have really fun, compelling shows by what? Being compelling. Crazy notion, right? It's the same thing I go through with my particular channel. I don't do the reality, not the reality, but the podcasts where I state stuff, you know, I write in the description like, oh, you're never gonna guess this, and I'm going to expose this, and controversial this. It's frustrating because that's what wins on these particular platforms. But I'm like, are you interesting? Are you compelling? The only thing that I want out of my talent, you know, I'm speaking from radio, is where I come from, the world that I come from. Are you compelling or not? Period, point blank, that's it. Are you compelling? Do I need to spell it out for you? Are you compelling? And sadly, you know, sometimes that is not what people look for. So I get really refreshed energy to know that, like, this particular pop culture POV is just like kind of a moment where I could just like let it loose, let it fly, and say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And in this case, I like Tami Roman. She was one of the greats in reality TV. Hopefully her career in acting continues to flourish on the Miss Pat show. This, that, and the other. Let's keep on winning. We're going to give her flowers because Tami Roman basically invented the wheel. To think, Real World, the second season, what was it? All American Family was technically the first reality show before the Real World. Was it called All American Family? The one on PBS? But then several years later on a mass appeal like MTV to do The Real World, which was similarly to like a Melrose Place, but casted as real people. That could have been something that would have been here and gone tomorrow, but the first cast had to be interesting. The second cast, Venice Beach, had to be interesting. And you bet your bottom dollar that Tami Roman, Tammy Akbar, Tammy Anderson, wherever you met her, you know, in following her work, you have to believe that she's part of that magic. And that's all I'm saying. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone says it. Sometimes I feel like, why are we not, you know, salute to the queen? Now, here's the real question. My queen in reality TV, there's so many, but I definitely love a Kenya Moore. Who do I put up? Kenya Moore, if I'm doing like an all-stars of reality cast members, you know, Kenya Moore is one of the greats, but then so is Tami Roman. Or is that the show? Let's do a reality show where Tami Roman and Kenya Moore are in a Winnebago, like Tami had to do when she started The Real World, and they go across country with some type of mission. Oh my gosh, could you imagine? Gone with the Wind Fabulous and Tami? Oh my God. Okay, I'm done. I just wrote a hit. Boona Murray or whoever. Andy Cohen or whoever. Make that show happen. Kenya and Tami together? Oh my gosh, it's the best thing I've ever heard. Okay, I am done because, again, if I keep saying anything, people are going to be like, oh, you like Tami too much. No, I like Tami just enough. She's fantastic, and to see her get the Miss Pat show season 2 is wonderful. And she was so good on Basketball Wives. So good on Basketball Wives. Yeah, Shawnee should be sending those checks to her still. And she had to deal with personalities that were not that interesting, like Jennifer Williams. Ugh, could you imagine if your coworker was Jennifer Boring Williams? Oh, I couldn't even imagine that. I mean, Evelyn was at least interesting. Shawnee was a little bit interesting. Who did I like? I don't know. All I know is when Tami was on the screen, it was like, Brandy, you know, Malaysia, oh goodness. You know, and they all made sense. They were all funny and fun for the show. But what I'm basically saying is, had Tami not been on the show, I don't know that the ratings would have worked. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm gritting my teeth. The ratings would not have worked on Malaysia alone. And one could say, oh, Malaysia was on the early seasons, but, you know, that was when the Miami Basketball Wives was still doing well, sort of as a lead-in. basically, I will go on and I'll always support that Tami is one of the most instrumental reality TV cast members to ever do it. But again, now she's getting her flowers. Now she's getting her roses. Now she's getting the accolades that she deserves. But for so many years, it was like, oh, she should be thankful. She should be thankful. I mean, thankful for a check, sure. She should be thankful. I squint when I hear that. She should be thankful for VH1 giving her basketball wives. That show would be long canceled if she wasn't on it. And even this last year without her, or what is it, 2 years without her, it is not exciting. All right, well, that's wrapping up Pop Culture POV, our little celebration of Tami Roman. This was my point of view. RandomlyRJR.com. Go to the Patreon, support it. Patreon.com/RandomlyRJR. And we hope to see more Tami success, be it acting, be it reality, be it a talk show. And if she does get a talk show, I would like to produce it. So there's just, that. My resume is pretty strong as it is. So, come on, universe. Okay, that's the end of the episode. Pop Culture POV, point of view. Thank you for listening.